All right, today I am fixing a freshwater tank on a 2004 road trek. This is on a Chevy chassis, and I usually do off-grid power systems, plumbing systems, and I finished the majority of that installation on this project, and the client asked me to take a look at her leaky freshwater tank. So I started taking fittings apart, which there was a T, and then this was just a cap down here, and I guess that was the drain, and then that was the water pickup, which is what this is. And I took everything apart. I noticed a bunch of epoxy here, so I used my grinder to kind of get rid of all the epoxy and really see what's going on. And I've come to the conclusion that this tank is cracked, and you'll see what I mean if I thread this brass fitting in here and I push up. Yeah, see that? Look at it, it's cracked. So I did have my little map torch out here. I was reading online that these HDPE, high density polyethylene tanks, are notoriously hard to patch because of the plastic resists a lot of adhesive, and the best way to do it is to melt the plastic back together. But I am not having any luck with that. It just seems really weak here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill this whole thing out, and I'm going to use one of these. This is called a Uniseal, and I use these a lot when I'm using stock tanks in van or RV builds. What this allows you to do is basically take a hole saw, drill a hole in your tank. You pop this rubber grommet in, and there's various sizes, and you can see that the hole is sort of tapered. And so once you pop the grommet in, you know, and it's tight to the hole to begin with, then you take your pipe, and this is meant for 3/4 inch pipe. You push your pipe through there with a little bit of lubricant. I usually just use some soap. And then it pushes and expands the rubber on the inside of the tank and gives it a really good seal. Now, I've used this seal for tanks on the inside, I've used it for tanks on the outside, and basically we'll just have a piece of PVC sticking out here, and then I'll be able to use some adapters to get it back to this PEX line, which I may or may not use this existing 90. I also want to add a drain because there is no drain other than this single hole here. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to drill it out. I'm going to show you what it looks like. We're going to pop this in, and then we're going to take it from there. Alrighty, drilled my hole. Was able to get my drill in here with a hole saw. Here's the bit that I drilled out. You can see that it's a fitting, and from the factory this is just something that was spin welded in, right? So they just take a plastic fitting and then they just spin it onto the tank, and then it melts itself and seals itself on there. And that's the bit that cracked. That spin weld was just old and, you know, probably repairable with some other means, but I did what I did, and I swear by it. So we're gonna pop this in here. Look at that, perfect. Perfect. It doesn't stick below the tank. It's perfect. I'm going to cut my pipe. We're going to stick the pipe in, you know, I don't know, I'm going to stick it in 2 inches or something like that. And it can go, you know, in and out depending on how much I want to, you know, have it in there. But I'll get a fitting, probably a T, so that one side could be a drain, and I'll put a little valve on it, and the other side could be the pickup. So, you know, messing around with this stuff, I do a lot of visualizing. It'd be nice if I can just use this existing fitting on here. So figure have a T horizontally. This can just come off that end, which I like. I'll have to do a 3/4 to 1/2 inch MPT reducer. But yeah, we're gonna take a trip to Lowe's and get back to it. So here is the solution mocked up. I don't have any of this glued. It seems to be pretty appropriate. Our PEX line is connected over there with a 3/4 slip to a 1/2 inch NPT, 3/4 T right here, slip T. Over here we have a street 3/4, and then I have a 3/4 PVC valve. You always want to make sure to operate the handle before you glue it in, because see, if I would have done that right there, it would have rubbed. So the handle's got to be almost pointing straight down. It's all right. One thing I don't like is that this PEX line is kind of pressing on that other end. So, you know, when you go to drain it, it's going to be kind of tilted up. It won't drain fully. You'd have to hold it down. And that's, you know, just the nature of this Uniseal, is that it doesn't hold your fitting in snugly. Like, I mean, it's snug, but it doesn't hold it in like a, you know, a rigid threaded fitting. So, you know, using a strap or a zip tie to hold something up here would be, you know, appropriate. But yeah, I'm gonna move forward with this and then see if I can't come up with a creative solution to keep this kind of either tilted down on this side or just at the very least straight across. Have the drain and pickup assembled and glued. Actually started using this OD Fusion single step. It's clear. Don't have to use the purple primer, which, man, I hate when I get runs of the purple primer because it looks unsightly. This stuff takes a little longer to cure, and that's okay. I'm not looking to get it back in service that quick. But here's my little bottle of soap that I'm going to use to just put on the end here, and then we'll get it in our fitting over here. All right, the deal is sealed. We just filled up the water tank. No leaks, no weeps, no moisture. And I was able to tie up the PEX line to, let's see, yeah, that fill tube right there. So it's horizontal, which makes me happy, and give the drain